And there is a soft sound. But no, there's nothing much for a scavenger to find today. It's a very pleasant day to be out and about. The surface ripples, and yet beneath our movements, which make the waves, like trembling, quivering feelings, make a scratch of an itch. And the overall question I have these days, because of what I'm thinking, feeling, and imagining, is very much so far removed from what is obviously physically manifest. So I'm aware that there is war all over the place in the world, and yet I'm feeling tremendous peace in myself. Peace I'm feeling is not coming from the outside world. The outside world has reasons to be disturbed, not peaceful. But my logic and my intuition work hand in hand to try and help my identity understand. If the peace is not because of outside circumstances, then how come I have peace? How come I've made some sort of an inner progress in myself that causes me now to feel peace despite challenging circumstances which a year ago would have made me upset? Things like my brother's attacks. Yeah, the question is what we imagine real to us? So, generally speaking, what I imagine, no other eye is seeing, unless I describe it with a resonance that somebody hears and says, that's familiar to me, I resonate with that, I've seen something similar. But apart from that, what we see in our imaginations is invisible to everyone else, unless with poetry and art we can convey the beauty of our eye of beholding. And there's where the choice is, although learning how to choose instead of accepting the default that the world gives, that we tend to choose. So yes, there's choice to create our own worldview. That choice is dependent on how much we're able to overcome the worldview that we already have. So many people out there are aware of things like MK Ultra and every other scheme to propagandize and make people think things which, left to themselves, they'd never think. Just like installing beliefs into the human mind. It brings up the question of who the hell is doing this and why would they do it? You see, the highest truth is there is no body. The highest truth is there is no they. The highest truth is this all just appears to be going on and we are spinning webs. Like web pages on the internet, we're spinning webs of what we think might be going on. And to whatever degree those webs are fear-based, then we're seeing a very unreal world. But we are imagining it, and it becomes real to us because it's what we imagine, project, it's what we see. It's how we interpret. What I've especially learned in practice in these last few months is, generally speaking, the mind is absolutely full of, to overflowing full, overwhelmed full. The mind is full of past-based knowledge, which it is trying to make sense of. Not all of it does the mind remember. And therefore, the sense that the mind on its own is trying to make of what's going on now cannot make sense because it's past-based projections onto now. For the mind cannot see now because its own projections onto now from the past are getting in the way. And the Logos says the logic is to drop everything you think you know from your mind, so your mind can finally be still for a moment. And in that moment, the mind can begin to receive intuition direct. Once the mind learns that the intuition gives immediate answers that are true in that moment, and gets to compare those answers with its classical computing method of going through everything it thinks it knows already with a whole lot of algorithms to choose out things that might be most important in order to say from the past what might be about to happen next. And certainly my mind came to the conclusion that that long process is less accurate than the process of the mind actually coming to stillness and receiving truth in the moment from its own feelings. And psychologically, there's a massive thing there for the mind to recognize it has feelings, for the male to recognize it has a female inside. There's realizations there on a body level of the physical body, the emotional body, the thinking body, the astral body, the soul body, the super soul body. But ultimately, logically, everything goes back to originally there was a blank canvas and it was black, not white. And then suddenly there was a white canvas reflecting the black. And eventually the shadow began to think that it was real in itself instead of remembering that it was cast from the darkness. So most of everything I'm doing these days is an inversion of what the world has told me. It's not what I'm aiming to do, but that turns out to be the way it is. But turn that on its head, most of what the outside world has been saying is inverted from what really is. And I notice that most of what I'm saying these days and thinking is the inversion of what I was told. Actually, I think it's straight up what I'm remembering these days. And what the world tried to say is the inversion. There's a woman out there who's saying that we have been living in an inverted 3D construct. And these days, the overall frequency of the planet has now risen to the height of the fourth dimension, where all is much more fluid than fixed. I quite dig all that terminology. Difficult to explain, like describing a vision or a dream. It's difficult to explain your own dream to someone else in the outside world. The tide's getting a bit close, so I'm going to go for now. Thanks for the interest in me who's listening.